Okay, so everyone, happy to have you here. And in this session, we're going to talk about how you can use effective pricing to triple your payroll service revenue. So again, my name is Gene Austin. I'm based out of New York City, a New York native, and I'm the CEO of Tax Strategies Group. I founded this company in 2017, and our mission is to help small business owners and nonprofit clients have greater peace of mind, more free time, and a better understanding of their numbers through our bookkeeping, payroll, virtual CFO, tax planning, and advisory solutions that we provide, and to also ensure that our business and individual clients remain compliant with by offering our tax preparation and accounting services. Now, with regards to my personal background, I graduated college with a degree in accounting, but I didn't start out in the accounting field because at the time I had a greater interest in the world of banking and finance. I spent several years on Wall Street as a corporate lender to both mid-market and Fortune 500 companies, and 15 years as financial regulator with the Federal Reserve Bank of New York and the New York Stock Exchange, focusing on regulatory compliance matters. In 2006, I left the traditional world of corporate America to become a financial advisor, where I provided investment advisory and insurance services to several hundred individual and small business clients. In 2012, I branched out and started to provide professional tax preparation and bookkeeping services to several clients that were in need. And we built upon that to get to where we are today, with roughly 100 clients and several independent contractors working with us. So it's ironic we're talking about payroll, but I personally don't have staff on payroll, okay, other than myself. Now, as to my pricing journey, when we started out in 2017, I was a certified advisor with both QuickBooks Online and Xero. So therefore, I was pretty confident that we could provide a quality service offering. However, at the same time, I realized that I had no clue as to how to price my services. I was Googling online, looking for bill rates for this service or that service. In fact, with my very first client, after I started working with them, I realized that I had majorly underpriced my service. Could have charged them a lot more, and they probably would have been fine with it. Now, with my second client, the price that I charged them by luck was probably more appropriate within what they were able to pay and willing to pay, and that fairly compensated us for the service we were providing. However, I allowed scope creep to get in the way, where essentially I was doing extra work for the client and not getting paid for it. Okay. So, and these are services that had a lot of value to that particular client. So we should have been charging them for them. Now, this was a big departure from my time as a financial advisor, where the services I was offering, let's say an insurance policy or an investment annuity or a mutual fund, I didn't have to negotiate with the client about the price. The price was already set by the insurance company or the broker dealer. So, but what I could do is perhaps change what was being offered to them. But the negotiation and the back and forth about price, I didn't have to deal with that. But ironically, that brought up a feeling of deja vu, because some years ago, I have a passion for photography. And so I had a wedding photography business. I love taking pictures, and I'll take pictures even if you didn't pay me to take the pictures in many cases. But I would oftentimes have to negotiate with clients about price for a wedding photo shoot. And of course, you get to the wedding that day, they tell you they don't have any money, but then you see the bride in the horse-drawn carriage and the Rolls Royce and the cocktail hour with more food than you can imagine. And I realized again, I probably could have charged them more. So therefore, I realized I had to come up with a better and more systematic way to price my services. And I did some research on Google, and I discovered Mark's cloud pricing software. So cloud pricing is something that existed prior to effective pricing being created. And it was exactly what I needed to solve my pricing woes. I signed up for it and started to use it immediately with great results. And it was shortly after that, in 2019, that I joined the Value Pricing Academy. I think I started using cloud pricing in 2018, actually. And it was the following year, actually, that I joined the VPA. Now, when I started offering payroll services, my vision was to make a small profit off of each client by purchasing the subscription from a cloud-based provider at their wholesale rate and then reselling it to the client at retail. So rather than a recurring saving, and then, I'm sorry, and rather than a recurring savings, some payroll providers will give you just an upfront commission. Let's say they'll say, bring us five of your 10 payroll clients, and we'll give you a debit card, a Visa card for $500 or $1,000. So you get a, one-time, revenue hit, but then what happens after that? Okay. So the more I thought about this and the more time I spent on providing payroll services for even smaller, relatively simple clients. And what I mean by that is that even if it's a small client, you'll find that there's a lot of different little things that you have to do for them to provide that service. It's not just as simple as signing them up for QuickBooks Payroll, for instance, or Gusto or OnPay and calling it a day. So I realized I wasn't sufficiently compensating myself for the time and effort required to deliver the service. And so therefore, that's where we are today with using effective pricing. And what I'm going to do is now show you my process. So let me share my screen. I believe this is the right one here. Okay. And let's see. Let me, I could put this into slideshow mode, but I'm not. Actually, I should have had this up on screen while I was talking. I apologize. But as I said, I have a degree in accounting, worked on Wall Street, worked as a financial advisor, and actually Tax Strategies Group, that's our main umbrella, but we also offer the tax services through a DBA, TSG Tax Pros. Okay, so our agenda is that we're going to talk about the different approaches to providing payroll services. We're going to talk about how I collect customer data. We're going to give a live demo of the model, and we're going to get into the proposal creation process, and we're going to show you how to customize the model. All right. Now, with respect to payroll service options, and just also, if anyone has questions, please put them in chat. We'll stop along the way and we'll go over them at the end as well. Now, our clients have, and even us as payroll service providers, I don't know too many accountants who actually manually do payroll themselves. If you're pretty savvy and you like numbers and you like spreadsheets and you have your processes laid out, you could do it that way. I don't recommend it, honestly. I recommend aligning yourself with a payroll service provider, preferably one that's in the cloud, and using their backend as your backend. Now, if we talk about some of these options, QuickBooks Payroll, for instance, they currently, I took the screen grab just 2 days ago. So their least expensive offering is their core plan, which runs $22.50 per month plus $4 per employee. Then we have Gusto, another popular provider here in the US. And I realize that some of you all are not in the US and you may not be using or be familiar with some of these, but these are just generic examples in essence. So Gusto's least expensive plan is $39 per month, plus $6 per employee. Of course, all of these providers have different options where you can pay a lot more than that. Another example is OnPay. They charge $36 per month, plus $4 per employee. And on their website, it even has a drag slider where you can pull it along to indicate how many employees you have. And it's going to give that customer or give you a sense of how much it's going to cost to run that payroll. So when I started out, as I mentioned previously, my notion was, okay, I'm going to offer the payroll service on a wholesale basis and charge the client and make a little bit of money on the wholesale discount. So let's for example, assume, I know a lot of us have relatively small companies that we're dealing with. And oftentimes if a company is just starting out with payroll and not switching payroll services, they're probably going to be small. They're probably going to be less than 10 employees, maybe 10 employees, but typically not a whole lot more than that. So let's assume that the payroll back end is going to charge $36 per month. I'm kind of taking a midpoint average of the three examples I just showed you. So $36 per company plus $5 per employee, that would translate into a payroll service fee that you would have to pay of $61. Now, the discounts that they will give you as a professional advisor range from between, let's say, 5% to 30%. So let's say you're receiving a 5% discount or revenue split or commission, whatever you want to call it. That would translate into $3.05 of that $61 monthly commission, that monthly cost, I should say. So now let's say you have 10 clients that are all in that same position. That's going to translate into a whopping $30.50 per month that you would make for yourself. Okay, next to nothing. Now let's say that the discount or kickback, if you will, that they're giving you is 30%. So now that's $18.30, for each $61 payment that you're going to have to expend. If you multiply that times 10, that is going to translate into $183 per month. So a little bit better, not bad. Who wouldn't turn down an extra $183 per month? No one. Okay. However, that's still just scratching the surface. Now, if we look at the value pricing approach, let's say we have the same 5-person company, but now instead of just charging them whatever the retail rate is of $61, what if you were able to charge them let's say $189? Okay. So I'm going to do some simple math here. I'm not even going to take into account whatever cost savings they're going to give you. But let's say you're paying just a flat $61. Now you have $128 of profit just for that one customer. So now you're looking at $1,280 if you multiply that times 10 customers. So hopefully you all see where not just offering the payroll service as a commodity, where you're reselling a service subscription and you're actually selling a service is going to make more sense for you and make more money for you. So with that, we're going to now dive into the next agenda item, which is how I go about collecting customer data. Now, my approach is that I want to make sure that if a payroll prospect comes to me, that they're actually serious, because some people are just price shoppers. So they want to know, so maybe they might say to you, oh, I'm paying $60 a month with ADP, and I want to see if you can match that price or you can beat that price and I can pay less. So once I hear that, most times that's not going to be a good prospect because they're mainly price shopping. Okay. But let's assume that they start out having that mindset that they want to save money, but then you're able to explain to them how you can provide them a much better offering, provide value to them. You could potentially make a customer out of them that's going to generate more money for you. So having said that, what I'm now going to do is show you the Google form that I use to collect that information from the customer. And the reason that I have a customer, every single payroll prospect fill out this Google form is because when you're offering payroll services, you have to collect a lot of data from the customer. So if they can't even fill out this simple Google form, then I know that they're probably not going to be a good fit for our firm as far as providing services to them. So it's a very simple form. I'm just going to ask them, what is your email address? What is your phone number? What's your name? Okay, basic contact information. And most of our clients are in what here in the US we refer to as the tri-state region, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut. We do have some clients that are outside of that region, because we're happy to deal with anyone anywhere in the continental US, but most of our clients are here locally, so to speak. So they indicate what state they're in, and or if they're in a different state, yeah, they can type that in. Then I want to know what type of entity do they have, because depending upon that, that's going to dictate how payroll is going to be run, or even if payroll can be run. Because sometimes folks may think, oh, I have this partnership and I want to pay myself via payroll. Well, if you all know accounting and tax rules in the US, you know that a partner cannot get paid via payroll. And then I also want to know what's the name of their company. I want to know what is their annual revenue, because that kind of gives me some idea in terms of what their needs are. Typically, larger companies have greater needs, and there's a correlation between the service offerings of a larger company versus a smaller company that's just starting out, let's say less than 30,000 in revenue or less than six figures. Okay. Then I want to know how many fixed salary employees do they have, how many hourly employees they have, and how many independent contractors they have, and how often do they want to get paid, pay their staff. Do they want to pay them on a weekly basis, on a biweekly or fortnightly basis, or on a monthly basis? Next, when do they want this payroll service to take effect? Today is June 10th, 2022. If they tell me they want to start it on Monday, the 13th, that is not going to work because, excuse me, because it takes a few days to get any sort of payroll system set up for a customer, to gather the information, to do the onboarding and all of that. Then I want to know, do they want to have a mobile time clock? If so, we'll offer that to them. Do they want online scheduling? And are they moving from an existing payroll service or not? And if they click yes to that question when they hit next, as opposed to submitting the form, it's going to give them some options to pick from as far as some major payroll service providers. I think we have on that list ADP, Gusto, QuickBooks, one or two others, or they can type in other. So that's our data collection process. And again, it serves two purposes. One, to weed out, to qualify customers and to weed out customers that are not going to be a good fit. Okay. Now, let me just take a quick second to look and see if there's any questions. No questions. Okay. All right. We're going to keep moving along then. Let me go back to my screen share. And what we're going to do is get into the next agenda item, which is the live software demo. Okay. So I don't know how many of you all have used payroll services. Actually, if you could type in chat, if you're offering, type a yes if you're offering payroll services currently. It's just to get an idea. Okay. And type a E if you're using effective pricing, if you're using the software currently in order to generate proposals for your clients. Okay. So I see we have quite a few yeses. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And that's good. Okay. So, and that's why you're here. That's, what is that, a E-ish? I like that, Elena. So I take it that means you've kind of scratched the surface of the software. Well, we're going to get into it a little bit further. Now, what I'm going to start off by doing is showing you how to get to the payroll service model. I have a model that I've created for my firm that's customized, and this is a copy of the standard default model. So what I'm going to now show you is how you can grab that default model and just use it right out of the box. Okay. So what we want to do, we're going to click on the gear icon, that cogwheel. When you come into effective pricing, is going to bring you here to your dashboard. Okay, it's going to say welcome your name. It's going to give you the different options for the different models that you have that you can fire up and use. If you want to use any of the models that you already have configured that are live, you can just click on the icon on the left-hand side to do that. But if you want to grab a new model, we'll click on this cogwheel and we'll go to model management. And we'll click the button here that says view edit. And we'll scroll down a bit and we're going to go to the I'm sorry, I passed it. We're going to go to the payroll full version model. And this is the one that has the little icon where money is being handed to someone. So that's how you can know that's what that model is for when you're clicking on it on the side. So we're going to say use model, and that's going to fire that up. Once you do that, it's going to put a timestamp on it. So June 10th, 1621 is the timestamp that we first invoke the use of this model. And we're going to indicate this is for referring work. And just a little thing I'll show you here. Let's say you don't like that little icon. You want to pick a different one. Let's say you want to pick this icon here that shows address book, that shows a person. You can switch it to whatever you want, or you can even upload your own. So we're going to say that. We're going to indicate that this is live. It may give me an error message when I do that and save and continue. It does. Okay. But we will just a little glitch. We'll save and continue. All right. So now we're using this model. And actually, we're in the edit mode right now. So we don't want to be in that mode. We just want to use the model. So here, to use the model, we're going to click on the left-hand side with that icon there. So now, the first thing you do when you go to use the model, you must pick a client. For privacy's sake, I didn't want to disclose my client, so I put in a bunch of ABC XYZs to just take up the whole list. So that's why that looks kind of crazy like that. And indicate that they're a prospect, or if they're an existing client, you can select that as well. Date of the quote, that's there. Save and continue. Now, what I'm going to do, we're going to do this twice. The first time I do this, we're going to do it in the most simplest form. So let's say, how many employees do you have? 5 employees. And let's assume they say they want payroll to be done bi-weekly or fortnightly. Okay. Are you happy to have us process using our in-house software? We'll leave that turned on. And I'm basically going to turn everything else off. This whole section here about things that make payroll complicated, we're going to turn all that off. This information about HR procedures, we're going to turn all of those off. Time tracking and scheduling, we're not going to turn any of that on. Payroll payments, we're going to leave all that off. Your preferences, we're even going to turn all of those off. Save and continue, because I just want to quickly show you how we get to this point where we can reveal the price. So shows you 3 options. It shows the tick boxes next to what's included in each option. The entry plan involves quite a few things. The full plan in the middle involves more services, and the premium plan gives them everything under the sun. So to reveal the price with the software, we click on this fixed price button. It shows us that the entry plan is $49 a month over 12 payments, full plan $99 a month, premium plan $145 a month. Okay, so now let's say the client says they're happy with let's say they're happy with the premium plan. Or let's say they say they want the premium plan, but they feel that that $149 price is more than they're willing to pay. Okay, so we can click on here, the behavior rewards. And for instance, the first behavior reward is, what if you provide the information to us 7 days in advance? Will you do that? If they say that they're willing to do that, that's going to bring that price down from 145 down to 137. Will you use our system for providing your information? If they say yes to that, that brings it down even further. Will you refer us to 3 other businesses like you? Yes, that brings it down even more. So this is how you can use behavioral rewards in order to get the price to a level that the customer is comfortable with. But the main thing I just wanted to show you here is that in terms of this price point here, this entry-level price for these 5 employees is pretty low. And it's not far off from the price that it's actually less than what you would have to pay as a payroll service provider if you're using a cloud-based backend. So therefore, that's why all of the different things that we provide to the customer add more value, and we want to take them into consideration. So let's go back to the beginning, and we're going to go back to about your payroll. So now let's assume instead of fortnightly, let's say they want weekly payroll instead. Okay. And let's assume that they want physically printed pay slips for each employee. Yes. Let's say they don't want you to use your preferred payroll software. Let's say they have something else that you don't like to use, that you don't really want to support. If you say no to that, that's going to have effect on the price. So we'll click that as well. Do you want us to calculate your gross pay? Yes. Do you allow employee advances? Yes. Do you have multiple overtime rates? Yes. Do you pay bonuses? Yes. Do you have overseas internationally mobile employees? Yes. Do you have employees whose earnings are attached to a wage garnishment or some sort or another? Yes, they do. Do they process expenses and do expense reimbursements through the payroll software? Yes, they do. Do they make deductions for pension contributions? Yes. Do you want us to help you with maintaining your paid time off and your holiday records? Yes, and yes. Do you want us to set you up with a software that you can use for your HR on employee management? And I want to show you here this tool tip. Whenever you see the eye icon, if you hover over it, it's going to say, okay, it's going to bring up some text that's going to reveal. And in this case, it says you can use software such as Zenefits for this. So we'll turn that on. Do you want us to process your starters and leavers or your onboarding and terminations and resignations? Yes. Okay. Do you want us to set you up with time tracking software? T-Sheets, Swipe Clock, there's so many of them. You can pick whichever one you like. Maybe there might be one that's built into whatever payroll backend you're using. Let's say yes to that. Do you need to set up 100 plus users on the system? I'm going to leave that turned off. That's going to definitely have an impact upon the price. It's going to raise the price because you might have to bring on more help and more staff if they have so many employees that you have to manage. And you want us to set up the scheduling add-on. I'm going to leave that one off. Okay. Do you want us to process direct deposit, ACH, into the employee's bank account? Yes, that's pretty common, pretty typical. And in this case, it's actually going to increase the cost because depending upon the back end that you use, they may charge you extra for each ACH direct deposit. A lot of services these days won't, but it's providing value to them. So sure, charge them for it. Do you want us to process payments to the tax authorities, pension schemes and the unions, the retirement plans? Yes, indeed. Save and continue. Do you want us to provide end of year tax filing? Yes. Do you want us to input the payroll transactions into the accounting system? Yes. And this is one of the biggest, in my experience, painful pieces potentially of it. Every payroll system is different. Some payroll systems will create individual transactions that may or may not sync up into the general ledger, whether it's QuickBooks or Xero or whatever, or Sage, whatever other software you're using. Or they may generate a journal entry that will automatically get synced. Maybe they'll generate a journal entry that you have to download and upload. Either way, once that transaction or transactions, plural, are created, you have more work to do in order to make those numbers make sense, in order to categorize them properly, and in order to deal with your payroll liabilities and have them to be accurately computed. Particularly if when it comes to payroll, you have two ways you can go. You can choose to have all of the money deducted and escrowed at once. So let's say the gross payroll is $5,000, but only $3,000 of that is direct deposit. So what happens to that other $2,000? Either can be taken out at the same time, or it can be taken out later when the payroll tax payment is due. Depending upon, it's typically going to be a little bit easier. It's probably going to be better for the customer to just have it all taken out at once. Do you want us to handle inquiries from staff and tax authorities? But one footnote on that. If the cash flow of the customer is such that they don't have enough money to fully fund the payroll, then maybe that's where you might say, okay, I'll just pay the direct deposit now, deal with the tax payment later. But then again, it's going to be more work. And you want us to provide custom reports for you, custom or bespoke reports? Yes. So now that we've pretty much enabled all the options under the sun, now look at the fixed price. So the entry plan, $9.99, the full plan, $16.99, and the premium plan, $21.95. So let's say they indicate, well, wow, $9.99 per month. That's on the high side for 5 employees. I don't think I can afford that. Well, this is based upon what you told me you wanted. So they say, maybe they might say, you know what? We don't have to get paid every week. We can get paid every other week. And now if I just make that one change and I look at the fixed price, it brings it down to $759 a month. Big difference. Now, what if they say, you know what? We don't need physically printed pay stubs. We can get the electronic pay stubs. We can have the employees log into the portal and get their pay stubs that way. Again, that brings it down quite a bit, $699 now. Now we go into the next section, things that make payroll more complicated. Maybe they might say, you know what? We don't have to offer employee advance. We're not going to have multiple rates of overtime after all. We'll just have one overtime rate. Well, actually, I take it back because that's kind of driven by law. It depends upon where you are as far as the overtime rate. So you have to kind of be compliant when it comes to that. And let's say, you know what, we don't really, we were thinking about getting rid of that one person who's working overseas. Okay. And if I just save and continue with just those 2 changes and reveal the price again, then it shows that it's $629. Now, what if they say, you know what? We don't need that HR software after all. You know, just give us the payroll. Maybe we'll get the HR software later on. And if we save and continue with that, reveal the price one more time, $589. And I'm going to make one more change in this section. Let's say that they don't want you to process the starters and leavers, that they'll do that themselves. Now it's $569. So you can see how you can, even though and it's about setting that anchor. Now that once we had that price of $1,000, even at the entry plan, I forget what it was previously on the premium, but once we've set that anchor in their mind, now in terms of price psychology, this all sounds like a great deal to them relatively. But it's possible that maybe it still might be too high. Okay, so let's say, what else can we possibly tweak? Let's say they say, you know what, that time tracking software that you mentioned you can provide, we don't have to have that. Brings it down to $539. Okay, now I think I've kind of gotten rid of most of the things that we would not, that we would consider to be optional, okay? Except for this one, which is, do you want us to handle inquiries from staff and the tax authorities? Now, if a taxing authority sends them a notice, chances are they're not going to know what to do with that, how to respond. But so they're probably going to be benefited by having you provide that service for them. But what if they say, you know what, we don't need custom reports? Okay, make that one change. And now brings it down to 509. So now, again, depending upon the company, you know, in most cases, we know that clients are going to select the middle plan. Okay, so let's assume that they say, you know what, I want this middle plan here. This one is $869 a month. And but before we do that, before we select that plan, let's go back to those behavioral rewards. Okay, with this plan, this 800, because let's say they say that, you know what, this middle plan has services that I really need. Okay, such as creating journal entries into the accounting system, a departmental analysis and reporting. And actually, in this payroll model, it does not incorporate how many departments they have. That's something I built into my custom model. They say, you know what, I have this employee who has a garnishment, so we need to have that. So now the way it works is that if they want to have the garnishment processing, they have to select the full plan, okay? As opposed to saying that they're going to be on the entry plan. Now, if we look at the behavioral rewards, if they give you the information 7 days in advance, now you might want to change this. 7 days is a pretty lengthy lead time. They may not have the ability to generate that data to give you the time tracking data 7 days beforehand, depending upon how quickly after their pay cycle they want folks to receive their payments. So you might want to change that. Now, again, it has a tooltip. It says, when you do this, we'll give you a 5% discount. So just by turning that from off to on, let me see if I can adjust my zoom so you can, I had it the zoom turned up so to make it a little bit more visible. But if I just turn this from no to yes, it brings that price down to $825. Will you use our system for providing your information? Yes, they will. That brings it down to $694. And will you refer us to 3 other businesses just like you? Yes, they will. Brings it down to $669 from $694. And if they agree that they're going to deal with the workforce, they're going to communicate with the workforce, and you won't have to bother with that. If they say yes to that, now it brings it down to $537. And if they agree to store the data, store the files, make that their responsibility, that's another behavioral reward you can check off. But let's say you're gonna store the data for them and keep it for them. I typically recommend that because that's going to behoove you if they should somehow if you get a payroll audit, for instance, and they need help with that, you know, you want to have the information handy to assist with that. So let's say they select that plan, and now that they've selected the mid plan, the full plan, the middle option, $537 per month, 12 payments. All right. Now you have the option to provide additional upsells or enhancements to them. You know, do you want us to provide your retirement benefit forms? Do you want to have a salary exchange? And that salary exchange is not a U.S. convention per se. If they want unlimited employment advice helpline, if they want you to create an employee handbook, you know, if that's a service that you're willing to offer, you can charge them for that. And if you turn that on, that brings the price up from $537 to $579. And maybe you might even have a employee handbook template where you just have to change a few items, change the name of the company and change a few other things, and boom, Now you generated an additional revenue stream, recurring revenue stream for yourself. And let's say if they have some specific industry nuance, such as construction industry. Let's say they need certain customized reports that are required contractually by the construction industry. If they say yes to that, then that brings the price up quite a bit as well. So, but let's assume that that's not the case. Save and continue. And it shows you what the payment plan is. And you want to do this live with the client. You want to be sitting there with them, asking them these questions, or on a Zoom meeting such as this, so that you're having that interaction and understanding, an agreement, a meeting of the minds in terms of what they want and what they need. So we'll save and continue on this. And now we can review the quote. If we hit the print button, it's going to show that, and you can print that out for them. You can actually customize your quote generation here. But what's more important is once we say save and complete, and now, yay, the quote is complete. We've got an agreement. Now we want to create a proposal. Okay, so now you want to choose a proposal template. We have some basic default templates. I'm just going to show you my standard agreement for the purpose of this. You have to give it a name. And so we'll say payroll service for ABC Corporation. It's going to indicate today's the date, June 10th, save and continue. And it's going to show you that proposal. It's going to show you all these different sections here. All of these things can be modified, tweaked, customized. You can do it yourself, or if you want to hire Emily, she's happy to charge you a modest fee to make a beautiful proposal for you. Okay, so we click here to continue, and now this loads. It's going to finish loading in a second here. There we go. Boom. Proposal for ABC Incorporated, a nice, beautiful PDF that has navigation for the chapters and sections. I have mine customized. My cover page is not the fanciest cover page, but it has a company logo, tax strategies. It has company contact information at the bottom of the screen. The logo is at the top of each screen, and it shows the proposal number, the date, the fixed price agreement with ABC Incorporated, your basic, terms and description that you might want to have, and any disclaimers. And then the Appendix 1 is going to show everything that we agreed to during this conversation, that they have 5 employees, that they want payroll done fortnightly, they don't want physically printed pay slips, on and on and on. Yes, no, for each and every single option that they provided, with tick boxes indicating what you're going to provide and what's not going to be provided based upon the plan that they selected. Okay, and it's going to show the behavioral rewards in the special arrangement section, things that you can do to make our life easier, about your company pension arrangements, and so on. And then the back page I have is this. Okay, so now we've got a proposal. So now we just have to save this to our hard drive, click save, and I'm sorry, click this download button, I should say. Download, and it's going to download it to your hard drive, and there you have it. So now the next thing I'm going to show you is my process for getting paid once I have this proposal generated. So I know some of you all use Go Cardless or Practice Ignition, which is now called Ignition. I use Ignition. or you might use some other sort of service. I like Practice Ignition because I don't have to worry about gathering the client's information. They're going to put in their payment information themselves. So if I go back to this proposal here, what was the price? The price was, I have something that's suspending my tabs. I apologize here. But irrespective of the price, let's assume I think it was 500 and some odd dollars. So I already started this proposal here in Practice Ignition. ABC Incorporated, sample email address. Proposal starts on July 1st, ends a year later on June 30th. Indicates what we're offering. So I've had this. Now all I have to do is just change the price. So let's say it's $549. I forget exactly what we came up with. I'm going to say save service. And I have my terms and conditions for my payroll engagement. And as far as the presentation, I can then select or upload a brochure, click this and bring it in. I've already uploaded one. And then for payments, indicate how you want them to pay you, whether you want them to pay you via credit card, ACH, and whether you want payment to be required for them to formally sign this agreement. Okay. And we click on the button here, update proposal, because I already created it, so I'm just updating it. And I click on this client accept page link, and that takes me here where I can see this nice branded proposal that I uploaded that shows them everything so they can read it all. It breaks it down. It tells, and also here in the service summary that's templated within Practice Ignition, it tells them what we're providing just on a summary basis. And when they view this, they see this summary, they see the schedule of the payments, $549 a month, and they hit next, then they're going to be prompted to, they're going to be required actually to put in a payment method in order to sign this proposal. And they'll check the box, I accept the terms, they'll type in their name, Gene Austin, and then they can hit accept. Okay, so let me go back and see if we have any questions. Time flies when you're having fun. Okay, now I see Nikki asked a question. I understand how to come up with the fixed price, but what happens if the number of employees increases and decreases every week, a month? Well, in your proposal, you would want to indicate that one thing, that your price is subject to review if the number of employees should change. If you feel that their number of employees that they have currently is likely to increase within the next 2 weeks, I would just base the price based upon the expected number of employees. There's one school of thought that says that you can charge the client based upon a range of employees. That's not the approach that I choose to take, particularly when you're dealing with third-party services that do charge you by the number of employees. So, but what you could do, like I said, if let's say hypothetically they have 5 employees now, but you know that by the end of the month they're going to have 8, well, bill them for 8 employees. But hopefully, if you do a price review every 90 days at least, then you should wind up in a position where you're not going to fail to make a generous income for yourself. Now, Deanna asked a question. I use QuickBooks Full Service Payroll. How do you edit the questions? For example, ongoing management and onboarding, and with the time tracking software. Well, I think what you're saying, Deanna, is that, well, these are things that are already included if you're using QuickBooks Full Service Payroll. If that's the case, I think you, even in that case, Deanna, I think Diane, I'm sorry, Diane. I think in that case, you have an option to not use the full service option. You know, if they say that they don't want the time tracking, they just want basic payroll, then you don't have to use the full service payroll. You can, as I indicated in my slide, you can use the basic payroll. Okay. But and again, Elena asked a similar question: can you use ranges? Yes, you can. It's kind of similar to if you look at bookkeeping and you ask someone, well, how much is your annual revenue? How many transactions do you have? You can do it. Yes, you can. So in other words, and let's take a look at that. Let's take a look at that. Let me go back to sharing my screen. Here we go. So let's edit and tweak this model. We'll go to model management. And we'll pull up this payroll model that we created. And we'll say that we're going to edit the model. And one thing I want to show you as well is that when you're editing the model, there's a calculate button that will show you as you go how each option impacts the price. So we have to go here to the questions. How many employees do you have? Okay, so this is a value question, number of units. So in other words, what we could do is instead of number of units, we could show this as a unit price. Okay, so how many employees do you have? Okay. How many employees do you have? Okay, unit price. And let's say if you want to say $20 per employee. Okay. Then if we save this, save and continue. Now, if we use the model, it's going to give us a different result. Okay. ABC Incorporated, client type prospect. How many employees do you have? And actually, no, let me not do it this way. I want to show you in model management how you can see each step along the way, how it affects the price. Okay, edit. And I'm kind of putting myself on the spot here because where am I looking for here? There's, oh, here we go. Pricing parameters. No. Calculate. This is what I wanted to see here. Okay, no, this was, okay, this is changing the default question. That didn't actually affect the value. But what I wanted to show you here is here in the review section, if you say that they have 5 employees, now it's going to, if you calculate, it's going to show you what is the annual price. And at the bottom, it's going to break that down for you into monthly payments or however many payments you want it to be. Okay. If you just change that from 5 to 10 and calculate again, it's going to show you that that price goes to $2,000. But as far as the actual expressing price, it kind of starts with what is the base price for the global pricing parameter. Questions, I'm sorry. Okay, how many employees do you have? That's what I didn't do correctly here. Okay, so as opposed to unit. It was started out as see, what you would have to do here, you would have to multiply this, the value times a particular times that range. So and I'm kind of forgetting how to do this piece of it. It's actually, here we go. Here we go. Finally got to it. Okay, so you want to have a drop down. That's what you're going to want to have. And calculation price. So now you're going to have to create a drop down. So this is the question here is I'll call this head count. And I do realize that we're getting close to time, but I want to, this is important here. So let's say 1 to 5, let's say that option is going to be 200. And we'll add another option, 5 to 10. Let's call it 400. And 10 to 20. Obviously, these are wide ranges. Wouldn't recommend to do it this way. Okay, so now we've added these 3 options. Delete this last one here and save. Okay, so now how many employees do you have? 1 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 20. And then what's going to have to happen is that you're going to have to multiply this. So in terms of actually using this model, now that I've saved it, now I can go back to using it. Have to select the client again before you can move on. And how many employees do you have? It didn't show up exactly like I wanted it to, but essentially that's what you have to do. You have to select the drop down and you have to then multiply that drop down times a unit value in order to deal with a range. So this is a little bit more advanced, complicated application of pricing, but that's a very good question. And it's a very legitimate, scenario that you might want to tackle on a real life basis. Okay. Oh, someone said I just didn't hit save. That might have been the issue. Okay. And it could have been that I needed to change the question type. So, but we are close to time. It's 11:58. Now with respect, I see another question here. Do you provide interested individuals with the payroll service quote document, or is it an automated form from the website? No, the payroll quote document is a Google form. And if anyone would like to have a copy of the Google form in order to use it, I mean to do what? I meant to share screen. Okay, my apologies. Okay, so what you would want to do, this Google form, in my slides here, in my last slide, I included a link to the actual form. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy this. I'm going to throw this into the chat right here. This is my bonus resource to you all. If you want to take this form, make it your own, customize it to your liking, you certainly can. And with respect to the slides, I can, I'll have Emily share the slides with you. I didn't anticipate that anyone necessarily were going to want to have the slides. And you know what? I apologize. I missed over one important slide here. But in this final minute, we're going to get into it here. So these are my strategies and tips. I apologize. I got so into the software, into the weeds here that I almost neglected to cover this. And so what you want to do, I recommend weeding out price shoppers up front. We talked about that already. Also, another key thing is that you don't want to bundle payroll service into your bookkeeping service. You want to run a separate proposal for your payroll Don't combine it. Don't commingle the services. They're two totally separate things. And this, as you can see, there's a zillion price parameters that affect payroll that have nothing to do with bookkeeping necessarily. You want to absorb the cost of the payroll subscription in your monthly fee. Don't get into how much QuickBooks charges or Gusto charges. It's neither here nor there. All right. You want to use I recommend using a payroll backend that doesn't disclose their prices on their homepage. Personally, I use a platform called Payroll Relief that's provided by a service called Accountants World. They do not market their services to any retail customers. You have to be an accountant to sign up with them. All right. You want to agree to the price with the client in person or via a Zoom meeting such as this. You want to definitely send a beautiful proposal to the client, and you don't want to be afraid to charge what you're worth. I know for some of you might say, oh, wow, $500 a month, $300 a month for payroll for 5 people. That sounds like a lot. Yes, I've done it. Customers will pay for it. And the key thing about using the software, it eliminates all the haggling. It eliminates all the objections. Once they realize that you're using a systematic approach where you're not just arbitrarily making up prices. Have some of you all seen maybe a service proposal from another accountant and everything is $500? You know, no matter what it is, it's $500. So obviously they just arbitrarily made up a price. So you're using a system and it's based upon your parameters. And you can even say, hey, I don't have any control over the pricing. Even though you're the CEO, even though you might have totally customized the prices yourself, you know, play dumb, as they say. You know, these are the prices that are set by the service. Okay, so hopefully you all learned a lot during today's session. It was a pleasure being with you all, and hope you have a great rest of your day, great Friday, and a great weekend. And it was great being with you. Bye for now.